the US president defended Hungary and criticised other European nations who've been buying Russian energy.
We're looking at it because it's very difficult for him to get the oil and gas from other areas. As you know, they don't have the advantage of having sea. It's a great country. It's a big country, but they don't have sea. They don't have the ports. And so they have a difficult problem. There's another country that has that same problem, by the way. But when you look at what's happened with Europe, many of those countries, they don't have those problems, and they buy a lot of oil and gas from Russia. And as they know, I'm very disturbed by that because we're helping them, and they're going and buying oil and gas from Russia. So that question could be really asked maybe more accurately if you talked about many European countries, not Hungary necessarily, because Hungary is in a different position.
Well, there is Donald Trump speaking about Hungary. Last month, Donald Trump levied sanctions on Russian state-affiliated energy giants Lukoil and Rosneft, exposing buyers, which included Hungary as well as India and China, to secondary penalties. But it looks like there might be some sort of exemption for Hungary now. Looking as well at what might happen about Ukraine, because you remember that there was going to be a summit held in Budapest, and then it was on and then it was off. The Hungarian Prime Minister gave his thoughts on whether Ukraine can win the conflict against Russia.
The only pro-peace government is the United States government and the small Hungary in Europe anyway. All the other governments prefer to continue the war because many of them think that Ukraine can win on the front line, which is a misunderstanding of the situation. So it's a complicated issue. We will discuss it. It requests not just 2 minutes to respond to your question, but rather than our lecture. Sorry, not to continue more than that.
To both of you.
So you would say that Ukraine cannot win that war?
You know, miracle can happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, listening to that is Bo Erickson, US politics correspondent for Reuters. And Bo, I want to talk to you in a moment about the expected vote on a new plan to end the government shutdown. But I wonder, first of all, how you react to what's been going on there with the meeting between Viktor Orban and Donald Trump.
Well, this is someone who President Trump has been more friendly with compared to his predecessor, President Joe Biden. But I think, kind of connecting the two thoughts, I'm now at the U.S. Capitol where the U.S. Congress is. And I think this is another example that President Trump, even while the government is shut down, while his Republican administration and both chambers of Congress are controlled by Republicans, the longest shutdown in the U.S. history has taken place for now on the 37th day. And this is another example that President Trump is focused on foreign affairs. In previous shutdowns, U.S. presidents have almost been racked with anticipation and worry about the shutdown, sometimes to their advantage if they're trying to make a play, sometimes concerned that they are getting the blame for this. But President Trump has focused on this European issue. He's been to Asia. He's actually gone around the world. And this is just kind of a different dynamic that I think has, looking at from lawmakers' perspective up here, we have both Republicans and Democrats asking for President Trump to be more involved to try to end this thing.
Well, but we'll leave that to one side now, what's been going on in the White House. As you say, maybe Donald Trump prefers to look outside the states rather than what's happening now, because the Senate's expected to vote on a new plan to end the government shutdown. As you said, Bo, US government workers, they've been left without pay for about 38 days, haven't they? And this is the longest period of time that the American government's been closed. Do you think a vote today can end the impasse?
Yeah, this is just really crazy. It has a lot of impacts, and it's now being felt at a deeper level, even with transportation, with our airlines having to cancel hundreds and hundreds of flights starting today because of the lack of some of those federal workers at air traffic controllers. Regarding the vote today, we were just speaking with Senate Majority Leader John Thune just a few minutes ago, and it now seems like that vote could be slipping into the weekend here. even last night when I was talking to senators, there was a lot of lack of clarity about the basics of what the Republicans and Democrats would be voting on today. And I think some of that hesitations and unknowns are still lingering. So we could see U.S. Congress working the weekend. That has not happened in this last more than a month. They have gone home, and that is also a change from previous shutdowns when senators have worked into the night to try to find some common ground. But the parties, speaking with senators, still seem very far apart.
Yeah, Democrats have said, look, they're not sold on the emerging package. Some want affordable care to be part of any legislation. Do you think that the Democrats will continue holding out? And do you think that that means the vote will fail?
The sense that we were getting from Democratic senators last night and today is that they haven't changed their minds too much. They had a big meeting yesterday, and this was kind of framed as they were going to get on the same page when it comes to whatever this next vote is going to be. And a lot of Senate Democrats walked out and they basically were like, yep, we're united and we are still going forward. We are pushing for these healthcare fixes, as you mentioned. Some other senators are now even more emboldened to push for some of the changes that President Trump's administration has made regarding mass firings and layoffs during the shutdown, which are now being challenged in court. They want some type of acknowledgement from the White House and from Senate Republicans on that point as well. And so I don't know if a vote happens tonight or tomorrow that it is going to advance in the process, because initially what this vote will be, not to get too into the weeds, is just kind of setting up a longer series of votes. But it's unclear if that will start.
Okay, and you know, we've been hearing, haven't we, that people are going without their food stamps, that you've got workers going without pay, and many systems shutting down, including the airports. Who are people blaming for this record-breaking shutdown?
It's hard. It's kind of like one of those Rorschach tests. If you're a Republican, you're blaming Democrats, and if you're a Democrat, you're blaming Republicans up here in Congress. It was very notable this week, though, that after some of the U.S. elections on Tuesday, there are just a few for governor's races and the mayor of New York City, that when President Donald Trump was with Senate Republicans this week, he seemed to suggest that he thought the reason why the Republicans were losing in some of the races this week was because of the shutdown, trying to anticipate some of that blame. So Democrats seem to be a little bit emboldened after that, because they were saying, oh, even the Republican president thinks Republicans are bearing some of the blame.
Bo Erickson from Reuters, thanks very much for talking to us.